Hello, this is Truxton with League4545 on ICC, analyzing the game between PoisonPawn and Antmantis. This game was played in round 6 in the under 2200 section. Two pretty strong players, rated above 2000, battling it out with a nice slugfest. They play a very interesting line in the semi-Slav Queen's Gambit decline positions where white plays an early g4 with very interesting ideas that I'm just now studying and trying to understand the ideas behind. So let's get into it. Main line d4 d5 c4 c6. This is the Slav defense. Knight f3 controlling e5. Knight f6 controlling e4. Black wants to put pressure on e4 to stop white from playing e4. Knight c3, e6, e3. That's a good move. It's strong and solid. A lot of times I like to play bishop g5 here. And the idea is just to put pressure on e4 because you're pinning down that knight that's on f6. But, e3 is also a main line. e3, knight bd7. Queen c2. This is like a waiting move, high class, high quality waiting move, and the idea is, I think, to delay bishop d3 to wait for black to capture first, to try to gain a tempo, and also queen c2 controls e4, so now the knight can't really go there. Bishop d6. Black's not really afraid of c5. Anyway. Here comes g4. This is a very interesting move, and it's not a move that that I would consider. It just sticks out. It's not a move that it's totally obvious what's going on with it, because in most of the time when I play things like this, it's bishop d3, castle, and the king's going to castle over here. So why would you play g4 if the king's going to castle over here? So there must be some kind of idea behind it, and that's definitely worth looking into. First of all, when g4 happens, can't the knight just take it? Yes, the knight can take it because the pawn looks pretty free, but white has some vicious play here with rook to g1 and then attacking the knight and indirectly the pawn on g7. And so, I was thinking to myself, doesn't this kind of disagree with a lot of the white plans of, playing bishop d3 and castling kingside? Because isn't that going to be much more difficult to do once, you've pushed g4 and you don't want your king to stay in the center. So I think the idea must be to maybe castle long, which is extremely interesting. So with that in mind, let's take a look at what happens here if black plays knight takes g4. So you're going to want to win a pawn back. You don't want to just lose a pawn for nothing, and you want to develop and get some pieces in the game. So let's play rook to g1, and this bishop is eyeing down the h2 square as well as the knight, and when the rook moved from h1 to g1, then there's only one defender on this pawn. So black just took a pawn and he's about to take another one. It looks like white can get one back, but maybe this is some kind of pawn sacrifice. So let's look at knight takes h2. After knight takes knight, bishop takes knight, the rook is attacked, it has to move. So let's take on g7. And if you see, after taking on g7, now black really can't castle kingside. And there's immediate threats on the h7 pawn because the queen that's on c2 is attacking it with the rook, and it only has one defender. Also, there's some threats here on the f7 pawn, some indirect threats, I guess. So what can black do here? I mean, he doesn't want to just lose this pawn, right? That's not something he wants to do, so he can defend the pawn. Right? Let's play knight f6, and that defends the pawn. I guess that's okay. I guess white would play bishop d2, and where's black going to go? I guess black can't really castle kingside here, so let's try to castle queenside. Let's play queen e7, and maybe black can play pawn to e5 here. And looks like there's a subtle threat here. If queen to f8, then the rook is attacked and it has to move or has to be defended. So maybe there's something to say about that. And also black wants to play bishop d7 and then castle long. I'm not sure about all that because of c takes d5. I guess black would just play e takes d5 and not take back with the c pawn, because if the king is on c8, then this pawn is pinned. It's white to move, and white can just castle long. And if black plays bishop d7, it's white to move. So let's just open up the c file, and then black would retake, and now it's white to move again. It seems like white's getting a lot of moves here. Let's attack here. Okay, so this looks like a game, and this might be part of the idea behind pawn to g4, is to just castle long and maybe get some pawns back with some dynamism and activity in the position. Let's go back to the main line. So I wonder if there's some other ideas though, like this rook on g7. I'm wondering if it can be trapped, because if you can get a piece on g6, then where's the rook going to go? And how could a piece get to g6? Well, let's play with it. Knight takes g4. We were looking at rook g1 and then sacrificing this h2 pawn for some activity. So you're attacking the knight. And the reason why I'm saying that the knight should take on h2 is because if something like h5 happens, then white can just play h3. And that attacks the knight, and after it moves, let's say back, then the rook can take. So you're not going to want that to happen. Maybe black can counterattack. Whoa, look at that. Okay, so there's a drawback with the move g4. That's I guess it's not so obvious. Anyway, this knight on f3 is undefended. So does white have time to play pawn to h3? Can black attack this knight and just get some counterplay? So let's just look at that really fast. So when white plays g4, then this knight is undefended. I think that could play a role in a lot of different lines. So let's look at that. Knight takes pawn, rook g1, and then if h5, just defending the knight, h3, how about queen f6? And the idea is after pawn takes knight, then you take this knight. Is there anything to say about that? Probably white's better here. Let's play bishop g2. I'm not sure if black can take this pawn. I don't think so. Let's go back to f6. Let's harass the queen a little bit for the same reason that the queen can't really get on the g file. Yeah, white gets a lot of tempo here, so I guess he can't play that. Okay, so knight takes pawn, rook g1, and now instead of hanging on to the knight and trying to attack on f3, let's go ahead and take the pawn like we said before. Knight takes knight, bishop takes knight, rook takes g7, and now what I was thinking was, what if we can get a piece on g6, and then that rook is trapped? I'm not sure, because this pawn on h7 is immediately attacked, so if you're going to do it, then you have to defend this pawn in the process, so that seems like a lot of multitasking. I was looking at knight f6 and just to defend this pawn, but then, well, the only piece that can get to g6 is this knight, and this knight isn't going to g6 here, so let's play knight f8. And this is a multi-purpose move. It defends the pawn on h7, and it plans to play knight to g6, which traps the rook. I'm not sure what white does here. Yeah, what's white going to do? If he plays like bishop d2, then knight g6 is coming. And this rook, I mean, black king can just come over. Let's castle, and then the black king can come over here and attack this rook, and how is white going to defend it? I don't think he is. He's going to lose the exchange. Maybe there's compensation here because the king had to come around, so instead of the king, let's just slow play it. Queen e7, queen to f8, and now this rook is still trapped. I don't think that white can allow that, but I'm just really not sure. I haven't studied it. So that looks interesting. It's definitely something to look into. In the game, black didn't take this pawn, and it must be, it must be that black knows this line, and he knows that if he goes ahead and chomps away, then rook g1, take. I guess that he just... Wait a minute, this knight's hanging. What's going on here? Oh, right, okay. Knight takes knight, bishop takes, now take. But what's wrong with this position? Why wouldn't black want to go into this? This is really dynamic. It looks like knight f8, and now knight g6 is coming. There must be some kind of response here that I'm missing. I'm not sure who created this whole g4 idea. Definitely somebody, probably a grandmaster, came up with this. It's very interesting. I think taking the pawn is probably fine for black. Definitely white gets some play for it. This bishop is a little bit shut in, but instead of castling on the king side, he's going to castle on the queen side. Let's just look at a line really fast with it. Rook g1, this is all forced. Takes, and now it's black's move. What's black going to do? I like this whole knight f8 idea. Let's just look at that again, because the idea is to come to g6. Now, if white moves the rook, where should he put it? Let's put it on g2, and that attacks the bishop, and maybe the other rook can come over to g1 and just, put a lot of pressure on this open line. Looks like white is on the open line and black isn't, so that's the idea. Let's move the bishop back to d6. I'm not sure if that's forced, but let's just play it. Bishop d6, bishop d2, queen e7. The idea is to play e5. Castle long. Let's play knight g6. Let's control e5. But then f4 happens. Okay, so what? Bishop d7. Black's going to castle long. And it is white to move. So let's open up some lines a little bit. Takes, and let's take back with the e-pawn. Now this bishop is opened up. It's white to move. Bishop d3, that attacks the knight, and this pawn indirectly. Castle long. Okay, so this looks like a game. Maybe, I'm not sure why black wouldn't want to go here, because this is interesting. I guess it's just not, he felt like doing something else. Let's see what happened in the game. So, he declined the gambit. And I'm not even sure if that is a gambit. I don't think it is, because white plays rook g1 and then takes it. So that's the story behind that. He plays bishop to b4, and this is a good move. I like this move. I don't think he played this move in response to like white playing c5. Like I said, I don't think that black is afraid of that. I think that he played this move with a more subtle meaning. And I think that the meaning has to do with the e4 square. So what black is doing with this move is he's pinning down this knight. Now he did take two moves to play that move. He played bishop d6 and then bishop back to b4. But since white played pawn to g4, I think that's probably okay. Because this move pawn to g4, if black does not take it, then that move really doesn't develop a piece. Other than rook to g1, which may or may not be played. Because black isn't going to take this pawn on g4. That's what black has said to white when he played bishop to b4, is that I'm not taking it. Okay, but what he has allowed is he has allowed white to play pawn to g5. Actually, I think that's part of the idea behind pawn to g4. Let's look at that before we even proceed. Let's look at what white's main idea is here. Okay, so let's just play a move that doesn't make any sense, just to see what white really wants to do here with this move. If it's, if black doesn't capture, what does white want to do? Okay, so let's just play a6, and now it's white's move, and white's going to play g5, and the knight isn't ready to come to e4 because white just wins material. So where's it going to go? It's not going to go back to b8. Maybe it will. Maybe it's going to go to d7. Maybe that's an idea. But let's just go off to h5. Let's keep the piece developed instead of going back to b8. And now in this position, this pawn is nice here. It really restricts a lot of black's ideas here, and if white castles queenside with bishop d2 and then castles long, and then if black castles kingside, it looks like white has made some a lot of gains here with this kingside attack. But let's just look at it. All right, so knight h5, bishop d2. Okay, so it's black to move. If black castles and then white castles, I like white here. Yeah, I like white. Looks like his attack is coming faster. So let's go back. Instead of playing, obviously, okay, so that's part of the idea is, black's not going to play a6. That doesn't make sense. He's not going to allow this, but that's what white wants to do, is he wants to get this dynamic play. So let's try to stop that. If you're not going to take the pawn, let's stop this dynamic play. And the whole idea is to play pawn to g5. So what if we just play h6 here? And the idea is after g5, then you just take it. So let's look at that. After h6, it's white to play. I don't know, let's go all out. Let's play h4. And the idea is just to get this in. Then knight takes, and rook g1. Okay, you go into the same kind of stuff. Okay. What else can white play here? Let's play bishop d2 with the same ideas. You're still sacrificing this pawn to get it back over here. And now if black castles, because, now that he's played h6, maybe he can castle because this pawn can't really go to g5 so easily. After castles, let's go ahead and castle. And now I don't think black is ready to take this pawn, because then his king is on the g file. That's probably pretty bad. I'm not sure. Okay, so it's black to move here. Let's get some counterplay. Because if white is going to attack black's king, then black should attack white's king. So let's play d takes c4, and when bishop takes c4, play b5. Right? You're trying to get lines. Queen a5, rook g to b8, and your pieces are just going to swarm, right? I don't know, knight b6, knight to c4. This looks like, just bring your pieces over to the king side, over to white's queen side, and just see what happens. All right, so after b5, this looks like a game. Let's play bishop d3 and queen a5, knight e4, attacking the queen. Queen a4, and the idea is if the queens come off, then there isn't that much of an attack. I'm not sure about that. Wait a minute, this pawn on a2 is hanging. Wait a minute. If knight there, then queen takes a2. He's threatening to exchange queens, right? Yeah, we can't play knight e4 because the knight unguards the pawn that's on a2, so we can't play that. Let's play king b1, and the idea is to play knight e4 and attack the queen. Okay, bishop a6, knight e4, queen a5, white's move, h4, rook h. I don't know about rook h here because this rook might be out of the game because this pawn's on a7. So let's play the other rook here. And now it's white's move. Maybe white's faster here. Wait a minute, these queens are going to be exchanged. Anyway, we've got a game. It's definitely something worth considering. So that's, I guess, the ideas behind it. So let's go back to the main line. Black didn't want to go there. He played bishop to b4, which controls the e4 square. Maybe black is threatening to hop in there. I don't think he's really threatening it. I don't know. Let's see. Let's play pawn to g5. That's not what happened in the game. Let's see what white was afraid of. Because he played bishop d3, and that controls e4. So black said to white, I'm going to control e4 with bishop to b4, and then white said to black, no, you're not. You are not going to control the e4 square. So maybe there was something to say about that. So let's look at it. g5, knight e4, and okay, this knight is attacking the pawn here in coordination with the queen, and attacking the pinned piece. But it's white's move here. Let's just, again, try to... Who cares about the pawn on g5? Let's sacrifice it and put a rook on g1. That's the idea. So let's play bishop d2. Bishop d2. But then black just takes the bishop, right? So what's the idea here? Maybe that's what white was afraid of. He was afraid of this knight coming into e4. Yeah. Okay, but white doesn't have to play g5. White can play something else, right? Let's play bishop d2. And now the idea is clear. You're going to castle long. But what about knight e4 here? If knight e4 here, this knight isn't pinned anymore, right? Because the bishop's there. So knight e4 doesn't make sense here. Or does it? Let's see. Knight takes knight. And now if bishop takes bishop check, then you win a piece. So you don't want to do that. Pawn takes knight. Bishop takes bishop. Okay, in this line, white trades off his knight on f3 for the bishop on b4 and has the bishop pair, right? Okay, but this pawn on f3 is really a thorn. That's going to have to go away. You're going to have to swarm that pawn. But I don't see anything wrong with this. So it looks like there was a couple of ways to tell black you're not going to control e4. You can either play bishop d2, and the reason is that this knight isn't pinned anymore, or you can play bishop to d3, and that's what he played in the game. So one of two ways. I'm not sure which way is best. Maybe bishop d2 is better because it plans to castle long, and maybe that's a better plan. I'm not sure though, because remember this whole thing we looked at with pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn, and b5? I mean, definitely black gets some play here. So let's go back to the game continuation. Bishop d2, interesting. It's not what was played. Bishop d3 was played. And black plays e5, so he's breaking in the center immediately before he's really developed. I'm not so sure about that. I think it's fine. You know, this game's crazy because both kings are in the center here, right? White didn't play bishop d2 to castle long, so his king is still in the center. So breaking in the center might make sense. I mean, it looks like it does a lot of things. Let's see what happens. C takes d5, right. You know, let's burn a move and let's play h3, and then black's going to fork pieces here, and that's not good. So that's why white played c takes d5 to stop that. And now black played this interesting move, and I don't know about it. You know, the first thing I looked at was c takes d5, and the idea is to renew the threat of e4. I think that's definitely a good move. You know, this queen is on the semi-open c file here, and maybe black can put a rook there. What does white do here? I guess he would take, and that hits this knight, and then the knight would take on g4, and this knight on g4 attacks the e5 pawn. But now maybe white can play rook g1 and get what he wants. So maybe that's why black played the way he did. He wanted to avoid this whole thing with rook to g1 and then attacking on h7. So I think there's definitely something to say about all this. Let's go back to the main line. So after c takes d5, black played the intermediate move, e takes d4. And the idea is if pawn takes pawn here, then we're just going to take this knight off, right? Let's look at it. Pawn takes pawn. Now it is black's move. Pawn takes knight. And now if the knight takes with check, the bishop takes it. And now it's white's move. What's wrong with this? Then taking this way. Okay, 1, 2, 3 minor pieces. Sorry about highlighting the pawn on e3. 3 minor pieces versus 3 minor pieces. Both sides still have the bishops. 1, 2, 5 pawns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 pawns. White's ahead of pawn here. So what's going on? Oh, maybe the knight's going to take on g4? I don't know. I think that black has a better pawn structure if one of these pawns fall, right? Because the pawn on c3 is weak, and after this pawn falls, then the pawn on h2 is weak. This is definitely something to look at. And how did that happen? Oh, right, white took here. Okay, but white doesn't have to take here. White can just take with this pawn. I think that's what happened in the game, but let me just make sure. Go back, hit the main line. Yeah, white took there. Just going to avoid all that. Okay, but in this line, this is an isolated pawn here. This pawn on d4 is totally isolated. Maybe that's why black played it. Black's going for the endgame. He wants to have a better pawn structure, and that's extremely, extremely logical. Because now in this line, this knight on f6 isn't pinned because the bishop isn't on g5. So the black knight can just take on d5, and that's exactly what he did. And if you look at this structure, black has 3 pawns here and 3 pawns here, so there's 2 pawn islands, and white has 2 pawns here, 3 pawns here, and 1 pawn here. So we have 6 pawns versus 6 pawns. But the white pawn that's on d4 is an isolated d pawn, and black is already controlling, already blockading it, and he's ready to put another knight on b6 and just get a better structure. So that's the idea I think that black had, and I think it's definitely worth considering here. I think that, white definitely gets something for this. Having this worse pawn structure, if you don't get some kind of compensation for it, then you're pretty much lost. So what does white get? He gets dynamism. He gets play, right? So let's see what happened. Castles. Castles short. Okay, that's very interesting. I guess white doesn't care about weakening his king. Maybe he should care. Maybe that's why I was thinking about playing bishop d2 and castle long here. But in this line, black doesn't get this whole b5 stuff. So maybe this is okay for white. And he's going to put a rook on e1 really, really fast, and maybe the knight's going to come out to e5, and yeah, white gets play here. Knight b6. This is very logical. The bishop comes out and attacks the pawn that's on g4. So what does white do about that? Let's give this check, and then the bishop comes back to e7. Okay. And now you should defend this pawn somehow. Oh man, he counterattacks. Bishop takes h7. Okay, you know what? That can't be right. You know what? I don't understand it. This rook is coming down and it's going to attack h2. So why I don't understand why you would trade the g pawn for the h pawn. Maybe there's something to say about it. Let's look at it. Let's go back a move. Let's defend the pawn with knight e5. That's what I was looking at. Right? Can black play f6 and just tell the knight to go away? I don't think so. I think that there is some serious threats going on here. Let's put a piece on g6. Let's give a check. Okay, if the king comes to f8, then the knight forks the queen and the rook. Okay, so that's bad for black. So the king can't just move. Let's take the bishop, but that's not good because after knight takes g6, now white has sacrificed a piece here. He needs to have something in return for it. What does he have? The knight is attacking the bishop and it's attacking the rook. Black has lost his kingside castling privileges. This rook is pinned, and it has 2 defenders, a heavy piece and a minor piece. The rook has to move. Where's it going to go? Wow. Okay, let's go... I don't know, let's go here. And now it's black's move, but... No, I'm sorry, it's white's move, but there's play here. There's definitely play here. I'm not sure what to do. Well, you wanna remove the defender on this bishop, right? But I think that white has all the time in the world. If knight takes knight, the idea is to remove the defender, then this guy just takes back. So let's just play queen e2. Or maybe better is queen e4. And now there's 1, 2, 3 attackers on this bishop, and there's 1, 2, 3 defenders. But one of the defenders is a heavy piece, it's a queen. And this king is in the center. This king is just... There's got to be some comp here. There has to be some compensation here. Definitely something to look into. Alright, back to the main line. So wait, knight e5. Black can't really play f6 unless there's something I'm missing about bishop to g6. So what can black play? Maybe it doesn't have to do with anything over here. Let's fork stuff. Okay, the knight on b4 forks the queen and the bishop. That looks annoying. Right, yeah, I looked at this. Okay, the queen can come out to b3 here. And if the knight takes the bishop, then there's a checkmate down here. And that hurts. So the knight can't take the bishop, but black can play bishop e6. And the queen can't take the knight because the bishop is guarding it. And there aren't any useful discoveries. So what does white do here? I think black's better. Yeah, black's better here. So, okay, maybe this knight b4 stuff, that's a problem. What if the bishop can come out and just stop all that? Alright, so knight e4, I'm looking at knight b4, queen b3, bishop e6, and I concluded and said that black's better, but maybe he's not. Can this bishop come out to c4? No. This knight on b6 is a menace. Okay, white just... wait a minute. Okay, I guess it can be played, but black exchanges a bunch of stuff off. Let's take the bishop, and then when the knight takes, then... oh, this is crazy. Wait a minute. If the bishop takes the knight, this piece is pinned, and I can even take this way. And that attacks the bishop. Okay, so maybe this is playable. I'm not sure. Maybe black equalizes. Well, you know, after knight takes, the bishop doesn't have to take. Black can just castle, right? And now this knight is pinned, and maybe b5 is coming, and this bishop is no longer pinned. Yeah, maybe that's the idea. And the queen can't really unpin because then the knight hangs. Okay, so this knight that's on b6 is the problem. Let's get rid of it. After knight e5, I'm looking at knight b4, and that doesn't solve problems. So instead of knight e5, let's get this knight off of b6. Knight takes knight, knight takes knight. Now this knight isn't there anymore. Now knight e5. Yeah, I think black's still okay here, though, right? After knight e5, black can just castle. Right? Oh, wait a minute. This pawn on h7 hangs. I don't know. This position is really, really complicated. It's definitely something to look into, and that's the positions that that you get when white plays g4. This is amazing. This line is extremely complicated, and it's just very much. It's really worth looking into. Okay, so let's just go back to the main line here. Oh, we're on the main line. Okay, so all of this happened. How did this happen? Right, bishop to b4. Alright, so knight takes d5, and the idea is black's going to get this better structure and go to the endgame and just dominate white, but white has this dynamism with all this play, right? Castle, knight b6, rook e1 check, bishop e7, and now bishop takes h7. I don't know if I like that move. Maybe it's okay. Right, because this whole thing I looked at knight e5, you know, there might be some complications here. So, okay, maybe this move is justified. Bishop takes h7, bishop takes g4. This knight looks pretty free right now. White has to do something about that. Let's see what he does. Well, it's not pinned. It's free, but it's not pinned. It can move, right? Because the queen went to c2. There's no pin there. And so knight e5, and that attacks the bishop. That makes sense. Bishop e6. I like this move. Now this piece isn't pinned anymore, but what's black going to do about his king? Maybe that's the whole idea with bishop takes h7. You know, black needs to do something with his king. What's he going to do? Queen c7 and castle long? I'm not sure if that's possible here. Okay, let's see what happened. Bishop f5. Was that move forced? I like this bishop here because it stops black from castling. Bishop f5. I don't know. What was white afraid of? Did he think he was going to lose that piece? How was he going to lose it? Let's just burn a move here. Let's play a3, and now how is he going to lose it? Rook takes bishop just fails. Queen takes rook. g6. Does that work? Well, I don't think so. No. No way. Okay, this pawn that's on f7, it defends the bishop, right? And so that means that because this pawn is defending the bishop and the pawn on g6, this pawn is actually overworked. And so there's got to be a tactic here. And also this rook is attacking this bishop. Let's take this way. Let's play knight takes g6. And after Well, I guess you could play rook takes bishop, right? Yeah. Okay, knight takes bishop. Now you're attacking the rook. What's black gonna do? Oh, okay, let's give a check. Let's give a Chekaruski here. In between move. King h1 and then take back. And then take back. What's the material like here? 1, 2, 3 minors. 2 minors. 2 rooks, 2 rooks. Okay, if there isn't an attack here, black's winning. Yeah, I think black's better here. So maybe maybe there is a threat on that bishop. Okay, but there's after g6. Wait a minute, it's white's move. Let's burn a move. a3, g6, and I was thinking that maybe g6 can't be played because of knight takes g6, but maybe it can. Let's look at bishop takes g6. And now after pawn takes, oh man, no. This looks horrible for black. Queen takes g6 check, forks stuff. Yeah. Actually, maybe this is like a checkmate. Hold on. King there. Yeah, this is at least... Okay, white's winning here. Black can't play g6. I don't know if it's for the reasons that I said, but there's definitely other things that white can do after g6, and it has to do with the pawn that's overburdened there. So I'm not sure what white was afraid of. I'm not sure why he played there. Maybe he wasn't afraid of losing the bishop. Maybe he played it there for other reasons. Maybe that wasn't his reason why he played this move. Maybe the reason... Let's see what black played first. Black took it. Okay. I'm not sure why. Can he castle here? Oh, no. He can't do that. That's horrible. Takes. Knight here. Yeah, this has got to be good for white. Okay. So he can't castle. And that's probably why he took it. Alright, so after queen takes, then castles. Okay, so that's why he took. It's to castle. But what's white's idea here? Remember, white played bishop to f5, and I thought that maybe he played that move because he was afraid of pawn to g6, winning the bishop. But, like I said, that doesn't win the bishop. White has play. White can just capture on g6. So maybe that's not why he played bishop to f5. Maybe he played bishop to f5 to get this position. In this position, white just has a lot of play, right? These pieces are just going to come, you know. This rook might come to e3, and that's what happened in the game, and lift over here. Because this pawn isn't on h7 anymore, you know, the king is a little bit weak, and pieces can come over on the h-file and just attack this king. So maybe white played the move bishop to f5 to get this position. Takes and then castles, right? Where white has play. Is white down any material for the play? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns for 5 pawns. Okay. The pawns are equal and the pieces are equal, but the only difference is that white's pawn structure is much, much worse, like we talked about before. But white gets all this play. So in return for the worse pawn structure, you know, white gets dynamism and activity. And so white's saying to black, you know, you're not going to even make it to the end game. White's saying to black, I'm going to checkmate you one way or the other, you know, and it's going to happen as soon as I can get it to happen. Because if white goes to the end game with this worse pawn structure and the queen's off and the rook's off, or you know, whatever comes off, then black just has a really, really easy, solid game because of this better pawn structure. So that's what's going on. That's the battle. Black is saying to white, I'm going to just hold on, and I'm going to defend this, and then go to the end game. And white's saying to black, no, you're not. I'm going to beat you right now. Okay, so let's see what happens. Knight e4, good move. Logical. This avoids exchange too. That's what I like about this move. You know, you want to keep pieces on for the dynamism, and knight e4 brings a piece over to black's king side, and it avoids exchanges. Okay, and so queen c8, great move. You know, this is a really good move. It tells white, you know, if we exchange off the queens, then where's your play? You know, we're just going to go to the end game. So we've got both sides literally making moves that they're thinking. You know, like I said, white has dynamism, black wants to go to the endgame. So white says, okay, let's keep pieces on, and black says, let's get pieces off. So this is interesting. Okay, but obviously white's not going to oblige black's plan. White's going to keep his queen and put it on the H file. But that's still okay. Knight f6, good move. Let's exchange off some material here, right? Black is attacking everything. White has to do something about that. And so he takes, and bishop takes. This is fine. And now rook e3. Just lifting and planning this deadly attack over here. And this is extremely interesting, and it looks like black is busted here. That's what it looks like. I looked at this for about 10 minutes, and it took me 10 minutes to find a plan that might be able to be played. So if I was in this spot, look at the clocks here. So both sides are really taking their time, and white is almost taken all of his time. He's only got 3.5 minutes left. Black has 15 minutes. So in this position, black does have 10 minutes if he needs it. If he needs it, he has it. So go ahead and pause the video and take 10 minutes if you need to, and try to find a way for black to hold on. So you've paused the video and you have resumed. Welcome back. I hope you found the defense, I think the only defense in this position. And if you found g6, then that's not right, because after g6, knight takes g6, pawn takes, queen takes check, bishop here, only move. White has what happened in the game, which is rook e7. Not rook g3, which would allow a defense. Rook here, bishop here, queen here, everything's defended. Probably white's better, but everything's defended. You're going to play more directly rook here, and now there's no rook here. So after this move, black's just totally lost. So obviously that's not the defense. g6 is not the defense. I hope you found the right way to play bishop takes knight. And the first thing I thought was, how does this solve any problems? Because white still gets rook h3 and threatens a checkmate. And obviously if the rook comes over, that doesn't solve anything, because that's just checkmate. The idea of rook over is to get a square here, but that doesn't solve it. But the idea is to exchange. Black exchanges off his queen for the rook and minor piece, and he gets a pawn. So this is the key move here. Queen takes rook, and after queen takes back, it's black's move. Let's play bishop takes d4, right? And now if you just look at the material here, what's going on? The way that I like to analyze it is I look at the rooks and the minor pieces first, and I say, okay, white has a rook and a bishop, black has a rook and a bishop, so that's equal, and they're the same color bishops. And what's left? Black has a rook and a knight, and white has a queen. Okay, but let's look at the pawns. 1, 2, 3, 4. White has 4 pawns, and black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns. So in this position, black has a rook, a knight, and a pawn for the queen. And so materialistically, that's equal. But what matters is the position, and that's what I always say to myself when I calculate things. I say, okay, material looks fairly equal, but what matters is the position. And so once you get to that point, you have to look at the position with your mind, once you move the pieces around, and then make a decision. Because if you don't make a decision, then what's the point of calculating? So in this line, after bishop takes d4, let's look at the position. This rook and this bishop are out of the game. Maybe this bishop can come out really fast and the rook can come out. This rook is out of the game. This knight needs to be redeployed, maybe to d5. I think that both sides are going to get developed here, and that's what matters. And if there isn't an immediate tactic, then I think this is a reliable defense. Okay, there aren't any. Okay, this pawn on b7 is weak, and this bishop on d4 is weak. Those are the only weak spots in the position here. Can white attack both of them at the same time? I don't think so. White can't even go to d7 with his queen because the knight's there. And this bishop is loose, so let's attack that. Let's play queen. Let's stay on the h file. Queen h4, and that attacks the bishop. But white can deal with that. Well, he can attack the queen, so let's not go there. Let's play queen g4. And now after bishop f6, it's white's move. Let's develop the bishop. Let's bring it out here to e3. But now black can play rook d8, and look, he's getting in the game here, you know. So this looks like a defense, and if you found it, that's excellent, because it's not so easy to find. But it's, I think, probably the only way to proceed here. Let's see how much time. Okay, to play that move, black spent 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes. But I think that if you just analyze the forcing sequence, then you can tell that white's winning. So always analyze forced moves first, and he spent 6 minutes, which is a long time, but it's not quite enough. I mean, look, it leaves him with 9 minutes, and the game's already over. So if you analyze the force moves, here they are. Takes, takes, check, there. Now it's white's move, and he's going to win. So you know that you can't play g6, and if you play g6, then you're basically saying that, you know, I hope you don't find the best moves. But that's not what white's gonna you know, you can't play like that. You can't say to your opponent, I hope you don't find the best moves, because your opponent will find the best moves. That's what you have to play. You have to play that your opponent finds the best moves. So either he had that, you know, thinking error, or he just didn't see the forcing line, that, or maybe he thought he had a defense. Maybe he missed rook e7. If you missed rook e7, then I think you can play this, right? Knight takes, pawn takes, check, bishop back, and maybe what black was looking at was rook g3, and with the whole defensive idea, and he thought that he could hang on. But you know, there's more than one way to attack this bishop. You can attack it from the side, right? Not just from the front. So probably that's what white missed, but I'm not sure. He's gonna have to. I'm sorry. Probably that's what black missed. He's gonna have to tell us, you know, exactly what went wrong. What went wrong in his thinking. So this is what happened in the game there, and it's just over. So with that in mind, you know, this is an extremely critical moment for black, right? And, you know, pushing g6, that's the last thing you want to do. So if I'm black, I probably would have spent a little more time. Now, I've been known to make my own blunders, and obviously I make lots of them. But I'm trying to get better. And after analyzing some of these things that people are doing wrong, it starts to help me understand errors in my own thought process. You know, I used to do stuff like this, where I would just miss opponent threats, I would just miss moves, and I still do all the time. And that's the way you improve, is you recognize, you know, where you're making the mistakes. And this is a common mistake. g6, that's just a blunder. I think that black missed an opponent threat. Knight takes, pawn takes, check there. This is all forced, and ouch, checkmate. I'm not sure why he played this move. I think he played this move just hoping white would take the queen. But obviously that's not what he's going to do. And okay, there's a threat down here on f2. But this isn't blitz chess, you know. This is standard chess. I think in this position here, black should just resign. There's nothing left. Queen here, and now it's over. This was a great game. You know, it's extremely complicated opening. It's really worth looking into, and I enjoyed the analysis. And I really hope that black learned from this. You know, he had great strategic plans of going down to the endgame with a better pawn structure. You know, he really, you know, fought it out tooth and nail in the middle game. Well, it's only move 24. It didn't last that long, but you know, for the time being, you know, these moves that he made, these breaks in the center, were risky, but it had a lot of strategic meaning behind it, and it was the idea of just getting a better pawn structure, and that's what I like about what black did here. If we just scroll all the way back. Okay, here we go. So bishop d3, controlling e4, e5, breaking, takes, and now we get this better pawn structure. This was fantastic playing, and he's taking a little bit of time to get there. So, you know, this was a great game from both sides, and it just took one mistake. And I'm just going to scroll through the moves here, and that's what happens when you play such sharp positions. And this is a very sharp position. One mistake, that's all it takes, is one mistake, and the position collapses. Just total destruction. Okay. So let's just look at this. Everything's good here, and black didn't take enough time. He didn't miss the best defense. he did miss the best defense. He played G6, and now the game's over. One mistake, and that's all it cost him. Cost him his king. So, thank you for listening. I hope everybody enjoyed the game between PoisonPawn and Antmantis. Great job, Antmantis. You exploited Black's mistakes perfectly. You went into a very interesting opening where Black might have been uncomfortable because he didn't go for the pawn on G4 immediately. He tried to do other things, which I think is fine. Both sides played great. I enjoyed, and everybody enjoy the rest of their day. Thank you. Bye.